You ever get that feeling in your gut that something's off but you can't quite put your finger on it? Like everyone around you is watching the same show, clapping for the same star, praising the same performance while you're stuck asking, why isn't anyone talking about what's really going on? That's how this Blake Lively story feels right now. Because on the surface everything looks polished, glamorous, controlled. Like a classic Hollywood narrative, the beloved actress, the doting husband, the fashionable red carpets, the charming interviews. Even as the headlines start to curdle, even as court filings paint a more complicated picture, Blake Lively's image somehow stays pristine, untouchable, almost too perfect. And that's exactly the point. This isn't just about celebrity spin anymore. This isn't just about a high-profile lawsuit or private texts getting leaked or even the crumbling friendship with Taylor Swift that the internet keeps obsessing over. No, this is about something darker, something colder, something deliberate. Because if the rumors are even halfway true, then Blake Lively isn't just surrounded by stylists, lawyers and handlers. She's surrounded by a fixer, a strategist, someone who knows exactly how to manipulate the narrative, rewire public opinion, and neutralize threats before they ever hit the mainstream. And if you think that sounds like something out of a Netflix thriller, then you haven't been paying attention, because we're not talking about your average PR rep in a pantsuit here. We're talking about someone who allegedly trained in psychological operations, a man who's been seen at her side, rarely acknowledged, never quoted, but always watching, always present. The kind of man who doesn't post on social media, who doesn't have a LinkedIn, who doesn't exist in the way normal people do, and yet somehow shapes the way you think, the way you react, the way you interpret every scandal. This is the guy the internet is now calling Blake CIA fixer. And while there's no official confirmation, no glossy magazine profile revealing his credentials, the pieces are stacking up. Insiders have dropped hints, journalists have been stonewalled, legal filings mention reputation crisis specialists and narrative control consultants, and the coincidences, they're getting harder to ignore, like the way certain hashtags magically disappear from trending lists the minute they involve Blake's name, like the way commentary channels suddenly go quiet after uploading critical videos, like the way Taylor Swift's private texts get waved off as misunderstood while Blake's team refuses to comment, hiding behind vague press releases and sanitized statements. And it's not just the silence, it's the choreography, the way stories break in waves, the way sympathy gets redirected, the way blame gets reframed. One minute Blake's facing public scrutiny, the next we're talking about her pregnancy, or her iconic Met Gala look, or her new cookbook collaboration with a celebrity chef. That's not just good PR, that's strategic distraction. That's intelligence-level counter-programming. And if it feels like you're being gaslight, like you know something is wrong, but everyone keeps telling you you're crazy or jealous or just not being fair, that's not an accident either. That's a psychological tactic. It's one of the oldest in the intelligence playbook. They make you question your memory. They flood you with noise. They exhaust your attention span until you give up, stop asking questions, and go back to scrolling. This is what psychological operations are designed to do: disorient you, distract you, and deflect accountability. And when those tactics get used not in a war zone or a political campaign, but in Hollywood, that's when things get dangerous. Because suddenly the truth isn't just hidden, it's rewritten. The victims are recast as villains. The inconvenient details are erased. And the people trying to uncover it, they're discredited, silenced, or buried in the algorithm. So ask yourself this: why is Blake Lively untouchable right now? Why are even her most glaring contradictions being dismissed as misunderstandings? Why do people get defensive the second her name comes up, and why does the internet keep glitching every time someone gets too close to the real story? Because maybe it's not just about her. Maybe it's about the machine behind her, a machine that doesn't blink, that doesn't feel, that doesn't forgive. A machine that doesn't care about your fandom, your feelings, or your favorites, only about control. So no, this isn't some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. This is about influence warfare and how the techniques designed to destabilize foreign governments are now being used to protect celebrity brands. This is about how a fixer, someone with alleged ties to intelligence operations, might be guiding Blake Lively's public narrative with the precision of a seasoned interrogator. This is about how you might already be under his spell and not even know it. Because if they can make you forget what you saw, if they can make you doubt what you know, if they can make you feel guilty for asking questions, then they've already won. And Blake, she never even had to get her hands dirty. There's something deeply unsettling about how quickly and efficiently Blake Lively's image can be rehabilitated, no matter how much smoke is in the air around her name, whether it's leaked court documents, incriminating texts, or insider Rumors, it all seems to vanish into a vortex of distraction and celebrity spin. But when you look closely, patterns start to emerge. There's a level of coordination silence from Hollywood media redirection and manipulation of the public narrative that doesn't feel like ordinary PR. It feels like strategy, like counterintelligence, and if you've been wondering how someone like Blake Lively continues to slide past accountability while others crash and burn, this might be your answer. Because now the whispers are getting louder. Blake's got a guy, a CIA guy, or at least someone trained in the same psychological manipulation tactics used by intelligence agencies around the world. Think it sounds like a conspiracy theory? Let's walk through the evidence, and by the end you tell me, is this just PR or something much, much deeper? Let's talk tactics. There are 3 classic intelligence tools used in psychological warfare: gaslighting, narrative control, and information gatekeeping. All 3 have shown up in Blake's orbit recently, not coincidentally but with careful timing. When the first wave of rumors about Blake's involvement in suppressing certain testimonies came out, the immediate response wasn't denial, it was confusion. Sources contradicted each other. Media outlets buried the story under softer, unrelated headlines. This is a textbook method used in disinformation campaigns: overwhelm the public with noise so that the signal, the truth, gets drowned out. Then came the gaslighting. Swifties were told they were misreading the leaked texts between Taylor Swift and her former friend Blake. Legal experts who dared to question Lively's filings were called biased. Content creators began receiving strange emails, cease and desist threats, and algorithm hits. That's not normal PR, that's pressure tactics designed to make you question your reality, to silence you before you can even ask the question out loud. And the biggest gatekeeping move of all, the blackout. Stories vanish, journalists back down, celebrities go quiet. It's not just fear of losing a role, it's fear of being targeted by a machine that feels invisible, untouchable, and terrifyingly coordinated. Let's break down exactly how this CIA-style psychological manipulation works and how Blake's team might be weaponizing it. Blake Lively has spent years building a brand that looks relatable, feminist, and authentic. But behind that carefully curated Instagram presence is a persona so meticulously calculated that it's almost sociological. She jokes about being a mom, she posts throwbacks with Taylor, she acts clumsy in interviews. All of this feeds into a persona so endearing that you don't want to believe she's capable of deceit. Whenever there's a controversy, whether about her alleged texts or shady subpoenas, the public is fed a new story. Sometimes it's about her family, sometimes it's about Ryan Reynolds, other times it's a completely unrelated PR stunt, like a fashion partnership or a pregnancy rumor. These diversions are intentional. CIA operatives call it narrative disruption. Distract the mark long enough and they won't even notice the original bombshell fading into silence. This is the creepiest tactic of all, controlling the opposition. Whispers online suggest certain pro-Blake accounts are actually sock puppets, fake users created to mimic dissenting voices, but actually working to steer conversation away from damning conclusions. Think about it. You've seen them, the over-the-top defenders, the Swiftie who suddenly says Taylor's being mean to Blake, the legal expert claiming everything is just a smear. These could be part of a coordinated effort to neutralize criticism from within. If that's true, then this isn't just PR, it's influence warfare. Let's talk about something even darker: the campaign to suppress content creators. Multiple influencers, journalists, and commentary pages have reported receiving threats, legal warnings, or mysterious shadow bans after posting content critical of Blake Lively. A few even claim they were contacted by reputation firms, offering payouts or deals to take down their posts. Some have seen their entire accounts wiped after one video. And now we're hearing that certain documents from Lively's legal team reference surveillance of media chatter. One line even refers to aggressive management of hostile social content, which when decoded means blunt force digital censorship. Where does this strategy come from? Not a PR playbook. It's military-grade digital warfare. Think psychological ops. This is what intelligence agencies do when they're trying to manipulate entire populations. The same strategies used in counterinsurgency missions are now being deployed against creators on TikTok, and Blake's team, they're not denying any of it. In fact, their silence is its own answer. So who is the CIA guy? We don't know his name yet, but legal insiders have pointed to a man often seen trailing Blake and Ryan at red carpet events, silent in the background. Former intelligence officers watching court footage and red carpet interviews have pointed out his telltale demeanor, scanning the room, listening, never breaking eye contact with a potential threat. There's speculation he's a former psychological operations specialist or a contractor with ties to a Washington-based crisis management firm. Some say he used to work in counterterrorism but now specializes in celebrity rehabilitation. One tabloid quietly ran a piece years ago claiming Blake's team had hired a shadow fixer after the 2020 brand backlash following accusations of silent complicity in a major cover-up. It disappeared within hours, but Reddit archived it, and if that man is still in her orbit, there's a strong chance he's the architect of her current legal strategy, not just in court, but in the court of public opinion. You're not paranoid for noticing the inconsistencies. You're not a conspiracy theorist for asking why so many major media outlets are running fluff pieces, while damning legal motions pile up in court. You're not hating women by questioning why Blake Lively gets treated like a glowing goddess, while whistleblowers in her path get crushed under the machine. This isn't misogyny. This is manipulation by someone who knows how to bend public perception with military precision. It's terrifying to admit how easily we're fooled, but we owe it to ourselves and to the victims swept aside in this mess to look closer, to speak louder, and to resist the hypnosis, because maybe Blake's CIA guy doesn't want to destroy you. Maybe he just wants you asleep, and maybe that's even worse. Let's step back for a moment. Let's zoom out from the Instagram posts, the Vogue covers, the courtroom transcripts, and the endless parade of calculated headlines, and ask the one question the machine doesn't want you asking: what if this entire game, the silence, the spin, the smiling red carpet photos during a legal crisis is all part of a long-running illusion? One built not to inform you, not to entertain you, but to train you to obey, to adore, to defend without thinking. Because here's what nobody wants to admit: the real Blake Lively doesn't matter anymore. Not really, at least not to the system that now surrounds her. What matters is the version of her that they can sell. The character they've designed, shaped, and weaponized to protect everything she stands to lose. And the people protecting her, they're not artists, they're not publicists. They're not just lawyers, they are technicians, operatives, strategists. The kind of people who know how to flip a narrative, bury a scandal, and condition a population to defend their own manipulation. Think about that. You're being trained to protect the lie, not because you're stupid, not because you're shallow, but because these people, these strategists, these behind-the-scenes fixers know how your brain works. They understand how to weaponize emotion, loyalty, nostalgia. They use your parasocial bonds against you. They don't just want to fool you, they want you to fool yourself into loving the illusion. That's what makes this so dangerous. Because when someone uses CIA-style psychological tactics to reshape their public identity, we stop seeing the person. We start seeing a brand, a myth, a script we've memorized so thoroughly that anyone who questions it feels like the villain. And once you reach that point where the celebrity is untouchable, and the critic becomes the threat, you're no longer in control of your own perception. They are, and it's not just happening with Blake Lively, it's happening across Hollywood, across politics, across media. We are living in a time where truth is malleable, and those with the resources, the handlers, the silent buyers, the intelligence-grade consultants get to rewrite it in real time. So the next time you see a video quietly disappear, the next time a creator vanishes from your feed without explanation, the next time someone says that's old news when the real news never got reported, ask yourself who benefits from your silence. Because this machine, this slick, well-funded, disturbingly effective machine, it doesn't just protect Blake Lively's brand, it protects power. It protects wealth. It protects the ability to manufacture innocence even when the receipts are leaking through the cracks. And that's the scariest part of all. Because if someone like Blake Lively, an actress who has never held public office, who has never commanded troops, who simply plays roles on screen, needs this much psychological firepower to suppress a legal controversy, what does that say about how much she has to hide? And if this fixer, this so-called CIA guy, is doing his job right, you'll never know. You'll just keep scrolling, keep defending, keep loving the version of her you were trained to love, until one day you realize you don't even know where the real Blake Lively ends and the myth begins. And maybe that was the point all along. Because here's the final twist: they never want you to see the lie doesn't work unless you help them tell it. Every time you silence a doubt, every time you parrot the PR script, every time you shame someone for asking too many questions, you become the tool. You become part of the manipulation, but you don't have to be. You can break the cycle. You can reject the script. You can refuse to be hypnotized, not just by Blake Lively, but by the entire glittering machine that turns complicity into art. Because once you open your eyes, once you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. And that's when the illusion starts to crack. So here's your moment of clarity: you're not crazy. You're not a hater. You're not alone. You're awake. And that is exactly what they fear most. There's a point where PR ends and psychological warfare begins. And Blake Lively's ongoing transformation from America's sweetheart into an unaccountable, insulated, and eerily untouchable Hollywood figure has crossed that line in ways the public isn't prepared for. This isn't just about image management. Anymore, it's about the creation of a manufactured reality built and maintained by experts who know how to manipulate memory, fracture attention, and erase accountability from the collective conversation. You don't need to believe that Blake Lively hired someone directly out of Langley to see what's really happening here. All you have to do is open your eyes and recognize the pattern. There is a machine behind her, cold, calculating, and highly trained, and its job is not to protect the truth. Its job is to protect her story, even when it contradicts itself, even when it collapses under scrutiny, even when the receipts start leaking from every direction. Because once a public figure has access to the tools of narrative engineering, the kind used in political coups and foreign destabilization, it's no longer a fair game. You're not just reacting to stories, you're reacting to stories designed to manipulate you, built on behavioral data, timing, and emotional engineering. And if that doesn't scare you, it should. Let's be clear, this isn't about disliking Blake Lively. It's about understanding how you're being trained, yes. Trained to love a version of her that may not even exist anymore. You've been conditioned to forget contradictions, to forgive without evidence, to reflexively dismiss any criticism as jealousy or misogyny or conspiracy. But what if the criticism is valid? What if the documents are real? What if the truth is ugly, and the only reason we're not talking about it is because someone very powerful, someone with intelligence-level skills, is making sure you don't? Blake Lively's fixer, if he exists as insiders claim, doesn't need to lie. He just needs to disrupt. He needs to distract, distort, and delay. Delay your judgment long enough for the next shiny thing to steal your attention. Delay the conversation until the story dies from exhaustion. Delay accountability until people are too bored or too afraid to care. And it works. Because this isn't new. This is a technique that's been refined in propaganda rooms, war rooms, and psychological operations units for decades. The only difference now, it's happening in your feed, wrapped in influencer aesthetics, delivered in curated sound bites, filtered through a brand that smiles and waves and says, let's just move on. But moving on is how they win, and the more you zoom out, the darker it gets. Because it's not just about one celebrity. It's about a system that rewards manipulation and punishes memory. A system where having access to intelligence-grade influence means never facing consequences. Where a well-timed distraction can overwrite months of documented misconduct. Where people who ask questions get painted as toxic, negative, or worse, irrelevant. That's the psychological trap. Once you label dissent as hate, you don't have to listen anymore. Once you convince the public that criticism is bullying, you erase the need for accountability. That's not justice, that's programming. And whoever is behind Blake's media machine understands that perfectly, because we've seen it happen not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Scandal.